Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at the beating heart of literally any modern organization, your database. I mean, whether it sits on-premise or up in the cloud, your database is the absolute ultimate digital prize for bad actors. Think about it. It holds your most sensitive assets, your customer data, intellectual property, financial records, the whole shebang. And making sure that data is locked down, well, it's honestly never been more vital.
So let me ask you something, and take a second to really consider this. How secure are your most sensitive digital assets right now? We're operating in this incredibly dynamic threat environment. Every single day, we're seeing zero-day database bugs, misconfigured permissions, weak encryption, and sneaky SQL injection paths, just threatening core data. Attackers are constantly probing the perimeter. If you're just relying on default settings, yeah, that is a recipe for disaster. There is an urgent, absolute need for continuous, proactive defense.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the database security threat, then demystifying the assessment, threat testing models, the defense process, tailored engine security, and we will wrap it all up with compliance and resilience. Let's get right into it.
Part 1, the database security threat, or as I like to call it, the ultimate digital prize.
When you get right down to it, the core threats really boil down to vulnerabilities, data breaches, and unauthorized access. And attackers, they aren't just trying to kick down the front door anymore. They're actively looking for those quiet, unauthorized entry routes, stolen keys, or maybe unpatched engines to quietly slip into your data layer. They want to intercept your data while it's moving, in transit, or just steal it straight from where it lives at rest. So the big question is, how do we actually stop them?
That brings us to Part 2, demystifying the assessment and fortifying the perimeter. The primary solution to these relentless threats is a comprehensive database security assessment. And the definition we're looking at here is absolutely key. It is a thorough evaluation of your database environment meant to identify and fix vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and privilege abuses way before the bad actors can exploit them. But here's the crucial part. It's a hybrid approach. It combines automated scanner intelligence with highly skilled manual auditing by certified security professionals. Because honestly, a machine alone just isn't going to cut it. You need that human expertise to truly lock things down. This assessment is actually made up of two distinct components. First up, we have the vulnerability assessment. This is the systematic, automated scanning of your database engines. It's looking at configurations, patch levels, and network exposures just to catalog any known security flaws or weak defaults. But then on the flip side, we have database penetration testing. This is the fun part. This is where certified specialists actively simulate controlled attacks. They're targeting SQL injection vulnerabilities, trying to escalate privileges, bypass your authentication, and even attempt to exfiltrate data. You really need both, finding the weak spots and then actively stress testing if they can actually be broken.
Section 3, threat testing models, which is all about simulating the enemy. Now, what's really interesting here is how Lumiverse Solutions adapts their testing strategies using 3 completely different models. First is black box testing. In this scenario, the tester acts like an external attacker who has zero internal knowledge. They're just looking for exposed ports and unauthenticated endpoints. It's basically an attack on the castle walls. Second is gray box testing. Now, the attacker is already inside. They're simulating a compromised application server, or maybe a standard user, and their goal is privilege escalation and data leaks. Finally, we have white box testing. This is the architectural blueprint level. The tester has full database administrator access. They are reviewing schema definitions and source code to ensure complete end-to-end hardening. The stress test perfectly escalates from the outside in. So, moving from the chaos of potential attacks, let's look at Section 4, the defense process, a methodical lockdown. Securing the fortress requires a highly structured approach, and this is the exact 6-step chronological process used. Step 1 is planning and scope definition. You've got to understand the current environment first. Step 2 reviews configuration and access control, making sure you're enforcing least privilege access. Step 3 is the heavy lifter, the core vulnerability and risk assessment. Step 4 checks data protection and compliance, specifically looking at encryption at rest and in transit. Step 5 is a rigorous logging and backup review, and finally, Step 6 is reporting. It is an incredibly comprehensive start-to-finish audit that literally leaves no stone unturned. Let's actually zero in on that final reporting step for a second, because let's face it, identifying a flaw is only half the battle. The output absolutely has to be actionable. The findings give you prioritized recommendations that are mapped strictly by severity: critical, high, medium, and low. But crucially, it includes DBA-ready remediation guides. We're talking step-by-step query hardening and configuration snippets. This is what enables your DevOps and database admins to just go in and patch flaws with absolute clarity and speed. Section 5. Tailored Engine Security, or creating specialized vaults. This brilliantly illustrates that not all databases are built the same, right? Different relational databases require highly specific, specialized defenses. Say you're running MySQL, well, you need deep expertise in verifying authentication plugins. If you're on PostgreSQL, the focus totally shifts to testing row-level security and multi-tenant isolation. Microsoft SQL Server? That requires auditing transparent data encryption and linked server exploits. And Oracle demands a rigorous review of data vault rules. A generic one-size-fits-all scan simply is not going to cut it here. And of course, the assessment also rigorously covers modern architectures. For NoSQL databases like MongoDB, the team is actively testing against things like regex injection and GraphQL parameters. For in-memory stores like Redis, it's all about disabling dangerous commands and locking down cache security. And for your cloud architectures across AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, the assessment neutralizes threats by enforcing strict IAM database authentication and making sure all those automated snapshots are fully encrypted. Now, you might be listening to all this heavy testing and wondering, okay, but what about downtime? Well, I've got good news. The number is 0. There is absolutely 0 operational disruption. All those automated scans and heavy queries, they're carefully coordinated. They're performed during maintenance windows, or they're just run on read replicas and staging environments. So business continues exactly as usual, while your fortress gets stress tested. All right, let's shift our focus to the business impact in Section 6, Compliance and Operational Resilience, Proving Your Posture. Security isn't just about keeping the bad guys out anymore, it's about proving to regulators and your partners that you can actually be trusted. This rigorous assessment process easily satisfies some of the most stringent global data protection mandates out there. Whether you need to comply with GDPR, HIPAA for healthcare, PCI DSS for payments, or frameworks like ISO 27000 and SOC 2, these detailed audit reports give you the documented proof you need to breeze through regulatory audits. So, how often should you actually do this? Well, the baseline recommendation is to conduct database security assessments at least annually. However, and this is a big however, if your application processes highly sensitive personally identifiable information, or if you're doing frequent schema updates, or maybe you're right in the middle of migrating to the cloud, then quarterly or biannual checks become absolutely vital to maintain that continuous defense. To bring it all together, there's a fantastic takeaway from our source material that really captures the core mission here. It highlights the importance of partnering with elite professionals, people holding serious certifications like OSCP, CEH, and CASSP, to identify critical vulnerabilities, prevent unauthorized access, and maintain a robust, compliant security posture. It is ultimately about taking back control of your data layer from the threats that are constantly surrounding it. So, the crucial point I want to leave you with is this. Ask yourself, honestly, if your database was targeted today, like right now, by a highly sophisticated attacker, would your digital fortress actually hold? Or are there exposed endpoints, weak defaults, and unpatched engines just sitting there waiting to be exploited? Don't wait for a data breach to find out the hard way. Take action, schedule an assessment, and secure your digital future. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.